Hello, everybody. I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show, where we watch old 16mm films and try to figure out what's going on. That film is part of the Cornet collection that we are scanning, and that particular print didn't have a soundtrack, and so that was something that they would use as part of master materials, and then they would add a soundtrack. And somebody pointed out the actual company that made the film was Moreland Latchford, which was a Canadian company that made several educational films for a cornet. And so it's possible that there would have been an English and a French soundtrack, and maybe even a Spanish one. Fascinating stuff in the 70s. It's still spring, so that is not right. It's spring is, not spring in. Spring is an adventure. Enjoy.
When springtime comes, there's a warmth in the air that seems to call to us to come out of doors. Spring is a time of coming out and of waking up. The groundhog comes out of the hole where it has slept all through the cold winter. The bees start buzzing around to make honey. Tulips and other spring flowers come up out of the ground. These plants grow from bulbs that stay in the ground all winter. Look, crocus is in bloom. They are among the very first spring flowers. Today, Mother is starting the spring house cleaning. Mary Ann wants to start something too. This year, she's going to have a garden of her own. And now that spring is here, she wants to start digging in her garden. But the ground is very hard. It's still frozen from the long, cold winter. The ground will become soft, though. We know that spring really has begun, for we've already seen many signs of spring. Mary Ann can see them, too, if she looks. What about the cherry tree? It's been bare all through the winter. Has it started to wake up? No, the tiny buds have not yet started to grow. We'll have to keep an eye on them. Here's another sign of spring. George is putting together a new kite. George is a good friend of Mary Ann's. So is Gladys, one of George's cats. Look, here is another sign of spring. Mary Ann's father is fixing the screens so that they'll be ready when the time comes to put them up. Yes, there's work to do in the spring, and there's playing to do. For spring is the happy season of the year. Swing rhymes with spring. Springtime is swing time, when life and happiness abound. Riding high up in the sky, the world goes sailing round and round. As the days pass, Mary Ann is hoping that soon she'll be able to plant her garden, maybe this very Saturday. But what's happened? Snow. In the spring? Oh, don't worry so, Mary Ann. Warm weather doesn't come all at once. Early spring is a time of change when we can expect all kinds of weather. Soon the snow will melt, for the days are growing warmer. The sun will shine on many days. It can't be long now before these buds on the tulip tree burst wide open. Of course, we see many clouds in the spring, and often the clouds bring rain. Now, rain isn't too good for playing out of doors, but it is good for washing the dirt off streets and sidewalks and houses. And it is good for helping to melt the ice that's in the ground, and for giving all living things the water they need to live and to grow. Springtime is a time of mud. Mary Ann can't plant seeds in ground like this, but she can stake out her garden, because now all the frost is out of the ground. The tulips are now in full bloom. Remember, we saw them when they were first peeking up out of the ground. The hyacinths are in bloom too. And if you look closely, you can see bees gathering nectar to make honey. Here's a robin staying close to her nest. Can you guess why? Soon there will be 3 new robins born in the spring. And what about our cherry tree? Yes, the buds are growing. George has an idea for a springtime adventure. It sounds like fun to Mary Ann. They tell Mother where they're planning to go. But we'll have to wait and see. On the way, they stop to say hello to Mr. Montgomery. To him, spring means that it's almost time to go fishing. And he's promising Mary Ann and George that one day soon he'll take them with him. That'll be fun. But today, they're going on another adventure. Here they are. Now let's watch them. And later on, perhaps you can tell a story about the things they see and do in this little adventure in spring. Now at last, Mary Ann can plant her garden. The buds on the tulip tree are nearly open, and other trees are growing new leaves which they'll wear all summer. The soil is warm and crumbles in your hand. Seeds are pressed firmly into the soil and covered lightly. From the soil, the seeds will get the food and water they need to start growing into plants. Look, a worm. That reminds Mary Ann that Soon they will be going fishing with Mr. Montgomery. Do you suppose Mother Robin sees the worm as she sits on her nest to hatch her eggs? Or does she see this baby kitten? Mary Ann sees the kitten. Can you guess where the kitten came from? Mary Ann knows. George's cat, Gladys, has a new litter of kittens. Spring is the time of the year when most animals have their babies. The kittens are getting milk from their mother. Like most animals, she will feed them and protect them until they grow big enough to take care of themselves. In a few weeks, spring is here in all its glory. The cherry tree is bright with blossoms. Tiny shoots are appearing where Mary Ann planted seeds. Now the sun will help the plants grow and produce more seeds. Baby robins have hatched from the eggs, and they're waiting for their mother to bring food. This is the day for Mr. Montgomery to take George and Mary Ann up to the river to go fishing. And this is the last day we'll spend with Mary Ann and her springtime adventures. But we can have fun telling stories and drawing pictures and singing songs about spring. And we can have more fun seeing and doing all the things there are to see and do in the spring.
There is a summer is an adventure and winter is an adventure. So, and I don't know if I've shown those. So, and there is, I believe it's autumn is an adventure, not fall. So behind me I have a film set up. We've been, I've been pulling films for toe tapping tournament candidates. These are films that I think have songs that could be, and you help me decide this, could be strong candidates to beat Found Footage Festival. And we will probably next week have start our bracket and start showing the songs, and then you guys vote on them. So here is People Working with Data. Enjoy.
There are different sides of me that form my personality. I work with people and data and things, and each side of me has a song to sing. Now I can be the kind of people who prefers to work with people, helping you or serving in some way. I prefer to guide and teach you, serve your needs. I'm there to meet you, reaching out to touch you every day.
And I'm the one who likes to sing whenever I'm at work with things. Using things is what I like to do. I work with things of different size, with different uses I've devised. To work with things is what I love to do.
And I feel that there's nothing greater than to work with facts and data. Information is the stuff I use. Investigators gather clues and commentators give the news. Data is the kind of work I choose. So come along with me and see which of me you'd like to be. People, things, data too. We're all different sides of you-know-who. We all fit together to make up you.
Have you ever thought it might be fun to work as a news reporter or a postal clerk? Or maybe you'd prefer to be a scientist, a weathercaster or biologist. If you have a certain fascination for facts and information, if you like to add, subtract, or gather clues, then you've got the knack. Investigating, calculating, communicating too. Those who work with data work with facts, figures, and clues. Facts, figures, and clues. Let's take a look at the first on our list. She's the one who works as an ocean scientist. She searches for data that she hopes will be clues to help us understand the sea. She's a person with a fascination for gathering information, and all the people who gather facts have a lot in common. That's a fact. Investigation, observation, imagination too. Some study the stars and planets. To gather data we use facts, figures, and clues. The school secretary works with stacks of files of schedules and records that she compiles. She types the reports and she orders the books and all of the food that the lunchroom cooks. She's a person with a fascination for organizing information. She keeps the records straight, the schedule's handy and up to date. Organizing, itemizing, classifying too. Certain people organize the data that other people use. Facts, figures, and clues. The weathercaster is on TV, explaining things to you and me, the meaning of the data that he's obtained when temperature, winds, and sun and rain. His job is the explanation of the relevant information in such a way that we can see what tomorrow's weather will be. Explanation, education, demonstration too. Lots of people who work with data communicate it to you. Facts, figures, and clues. Have you ever thought it might be fun to work as a news reporter or a postal clerk? Or maybe grow up to be a scientist, a weathercaster or biologist? If you really have a fascination for facts and information, if you like to be exact or gather clues, then you've got the knack. Investigation, calculation, communication too. Those who work with data work with facts, figures, and clues. Facts, figures, and clues. Facts, figures, and clues.
Burroughs, our good friend. Jim Burroughs, of course, has scored many educational film with very similar types of music. His most infamous series, of course, is Uncle Smiley, which we love. All right, let's see. My intern, Mari, is trying to pull another film for me. In the meantime, here's Heat and Temperature. Enjoy.
How much heat will this space heater give off in an hour? How much heat will this air conditioner absorb in an hour? How much heat is released in the human body when a person eats a piece of chocolate cake? How much heat is released by this oil when it burns? Can you answer these questions? Well, first, you have to know what heat is. What comes to your mind when you think of heat? Fire? Boiling water? Is heat the energy in boiling water? No. The energy in the boiling water is called internal energy. Scientists define heat as the energy transferred from one material to another, as from this hot plate to the boiling water. Before or after the energy transfer has taken place, and the energy is in a material, it is referred to as internal energy, not heat. The internal energy of the boiling water becomes heat again when it is transferred to an ice cube. Heat is defined as energy transferred from a hotter material to a colder material, because of the difference in their temperatures. To learn more about energy transfer and the measurement of heat, let's do a demonstration. With some boiling water at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, some ice water at about 38 degrees Fahrenheit, and a small quantity of liquid mercury at room temperature. We'll start by placing the hot thermometer from the boiling water into the pool of mercury. The temperature of the hot thermometer is falling. That's as expected. But what else is happening? The thermometer that was in the mercury is showing a rise in temperature. Energy is being transferred from the hot thermometer that was in the boiling water to the cool mercury. The two thermometers give a quantitative indication of energy transfer in the form of heat. Let's continue the demonstration with the very cold thermometer from the ice water. The temperature of this thermometer is going up. Is the temperature of the thermometer in the mercury changing once again? Yes. This time it's going down. Energy from the mercury is being transferred to the thermometer that was in the ice water. The rise in temperature of the ice water thermometer is a quantitative indication of heat being absorbed. Does this mean that a thermometer can measure heat? Or are there other factors to consider? To find out, we'll do some experiments with equal amounts of heat. We'll use 1 ounce brass weights at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's see what happens when we place one of the weights in 2 ounces of water and another of the weights in 8 ounces of water. We started with both samples of water at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature of the 2 ounces of water has gone up about 6 degrees. The temperature of the 8 ounces of water has gone up only about 2 degrees. The internal energies of the two weights have decreased by almost equal amounts. The energy transferred from each weight produces a quite different temperature change depending on the quantity of water being heated. So the quantity of material must be considered to arrive at a measure of heat. To see if there are other factors, we'll do the experiment again. This time, we'll use the same quantities of liquid, but different kinds. There are 2 ounces of water in this beaker and 2 ounces of oil in this one. Once again, both systems are at 70 degrees at the start. Will the temperature increases be the same when the systems absorb equal amounts of heat? As before, the temperature of the water has gone up about 6 degrees. But the temperature of the oil has gone up about 9 degrees. This indicates that some materials get hotter than others, even though they absorb approximately the same amount of heat. So the kind of material must also be considered in arriving at a measure of heat. Still another factor which must be considered can be determined with 2 ounces of ice at 32 degrees and 2 ounces of water, also at 32 degrees. Once again, we'll transfer an equal amount of energy from each weight to the water and to the ice. The water temperature has gone up about 9 degrees. The temperature of the ice, however, is still 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So there has been no temperature change, even though heat was absorbed in this case. However, some of the ice has melted. The transfer of energy has changed the state of some of the water from solid to liquid. But it has not raised the temperature. So changes of state of the material, whether solid, liquid, or gas, are a third factor to consider in arriving at a measure of heat. Let us measure out equal quantities of test material of the same kind in the same state. Will the change in temperature be a reliable measure of the heat absorbed or given off by the test material? Let's see. Both temperatures have gone up the same amount. Under these conditions, we have a reliable measure of heat. Suppose we varied the amount of heat absorbed by the test material. We could supply any amount of heat, so long as we supply the same amount to each beaker.
the temperature changes are equal in every case. The temperature change is directly related to the amount of energy transferred when the quantity, kind, and state of the test material are kept the same. Standard units of heat are defined in terms of the conditions we have seen. The standard unit of heat in the English system is the British thermal unit, the BTU. This is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 pound of water 1 degree Fahrenheit. The standard unit of heat in the metric system is the kilocalorie, or large calorie. This is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 liter of water 1 degree Celsius, or centigrade. Now we can answer the question we raised about how fast the space heater will give off heat to a room. It's rated at 35,000 BTUs per hour. It means that the heater can release enough energy in 1 hour to heat 35,000 pounds of water 1 degree Fahrenheit, or 1,000 pounds of water 35 degrees Fahrenheit. In the same manner, we can answer the question about how fast the air conditioner will absorb heat from a room. It's rated at 16,000 BTUs per hour. This means that the air conditioner can absorb enough energy in 1 hour to cool 16,000 pounds of water 1 degree Fahrenheit, or 1,000 pounds of water 16 degrees Fahrenheit. What about the piece of cake? How do we know how much heat a piece of food can release when it oxidizes in the body? We can find out by burning a sample of the cake in a calorimeter. A known quantity of the cake is placed into a pan below an electric filament, which will later be used to ignite the cake. The pan and filament are lowered into a flask, which can be sealed airtight. Pure oxygen is let into the flask so that when an electric current is passed through the filament, it will set the cake on fire. The flask is then lowered into the outer chamber of the calorimeter containing a known quantity of water. Once the calorimeter is sealed, a thermometer is lowered into the water. Now the cake is ignited. On the basis of the temperature rise of the water, it will be possible to calculate how much heat has been released by the burning cake. The same method can be used in determining the heat output of other burning materials. Knowing the relationship between change in temperature and energy transfer, a scientist can measure the BTUs given off by a sample of burning oil, the calories given off by an electric coil, the kilocalories absorbed by boiling water. These are all examples of energy transfer in the form of heat.
Yeah, you start with some interesting xylophone music, and then it gets dry really quickly. Even though I got to say the narrator did try to emphasize and make it more interesting. Yeah, there's lots of hands and test tubes and thermometers, and I have a lot of that footage that we've scanned from Coronet. So maybe I'll do a channel where it's just hands and test tubes over and over and over again. Would you watch a channel like that? If so, let me know in the comments. All right, so got another film thanks to Mari. She found one. I often give her a list, and sometimes she finds stuff, sometimes she does not. I don't know if I've shown this one yet. It's part of the Feelings series, so there's at least 2 songs in this. One is the intro for Feelings, and then the other is whatever the title is. And this is I'm Mad at You. I've shown I'm Mad at Me, and we had it in the tournament earlier, 2 years ago. This is I'm Mad at You. All right, enjoy. Because it's not doing the tension right. Let's try it again. Nope, not gonna happen. I guess we need to learn about honeybees. Enjoy.
Everybody has feelings, feelings every day. And it's alright to have feelings, feelings every which way. 'Cause feelings make us people, people who can say, I'm a very special person and I'm feeling this way today. For there are hairy, scary times, mean and need to scream times. How do you feel right now? For there are lonely times and friendly times, gay and let's go play times, frown and feeling down times. How do you feel right now? For there are serious times and furious times, jealous and even envious times, glad I'm so mad times. How do you feel right now? Everybody has feelings, feelings every day. And it's alright to have feelings, feelings every which way. 'Cause feelings make us people, people who can say, I'm a very special person and I'm feeling this way today.
I'm trying it again.
Jennifer, give it back. Give it back. Give it back, Jennifer.
You make me very angry. You're playing very mean. I want to throw the ball with you. It makes me want to scream. I feel like pushing and hurting the people that I see. I wish I knew how to make them as angry as they make me.
So what do you do with anger you can't hide? What do you do on the outside? What do you do with anger you can't hide? What do you do on the outside?
Brian, stop it. You've got other things to do. Go play with Jennifer.
I'm sorry. Let's go back and learn about honeybees.
There are two contrasting types of social organization. One, our own, is based on learning. The other, represented by the bees, ants, wasps, and termites, is based on instinct. In this film, you will see an example of a society, that of the bees, in which the individuals are directed in their activities by inherited behavior patterns, instinct.
Insects, as a group, vary tremendously. Their variations or adaptations fit them for their particular niches or ways of life. Among the most complex adaptations are those to be found in the social insects, termites, ants, certain wasps, and one of the most interesting, the honeybee. The honeybee is a social insect. What do we mean by this? First of all, social insects are adapted to live in colonies. Second, each colony has castes, specialized groups of similar individuals. Third, each caste has particular adaptations, the result of millions of years of evolution that enable it to perform special functions, jobs that it alone can do and which are vital to the survival of the whole colony. Let's examine the three castes of the honeybee. First, the worker caste. The worker is a sterile female, a female which does not mature sexually. Hence, she does not mate and usually does not lay eggs. The queen is a fertile female. She may be the sole mother of a thriving colony of from 50 to 90,000 workers, but she usually mates only once, storing the sperm received from the male in a special receptacle. The male bee is called a drone. One writer has described him as lazy, stupid, fat, and greedy. There is, in fact, only one justification for his existence, to mate with the queen. Now, for the moment, let's consider one specific structural adaptation in the honeybee, the sting. The sting has evolved from the ovipositor or egg-laying apparatus. Consequently, only females have stings. The worker bee has a sting which is barbed, as you can see. The queen sting is not barbed, and the drone, being a male, has no sting. Why? What function does all this serve in the life of the colony? Let's see what happens when a worker uses its sting. The worker sting, you remember, is barbed. It stays in the skin and tissue, and the worker bee dies when the end of her abdomen is torn loose. If a foreign insect invades the colony and is stung by a worker, both the worker bee and the invader die, but the colony as a whole is protected. You can see then that the survival of the colony is more important than the survival of the individual. After the individual has made its unique contribution to the welfare of the colony, it either dies or is eliminated by the others.
Here is a colony of bees in a commercial hive. Each of these frames contains hundreds of wax cells constructed by the workers. These are used as storage vaults for honey and pollen and as brood cells for the young bees. Here is the queen, marked for easy identification. Each hive contains only one queen, perhaps 50 to 100 drones, and 50 to 90,000 workers. The queen is constantly attended by workers who face her in a circle. They feed her, clean her, and groom her. Thus, the queen depends on her attendants. If she produces eggs faster than honeycomb cells can be built, she is given less food. Her egg production slows down. Conversely, if she falls behind in her schedule, she is fed more intensively. Each egg is laid at the base of a cell. After 3 days, the egg hatches into a larva. Then, for 3 more days, each larva is fed a secretion from the salivary glands of the workers. This is called royal jelly. After the 3rd day, the worker larva is fed bee bread, a mixture of pollen and nectar. Larvae grow rapidly until they almost fill their cells. Then, worker bees cap the cells with wax, secreted from their wax glands. After 6 days, the larva spins a cocoon and gradually develops into a full-grown bee. This metamorphosis takes 12 days. The whole process from egg to worker bee has taken 21 days. Now, after 2 to 3 days, the worker sets to work. For about 2 weeks, the worker is a nurse bee. She builds the wax comb and tends the larvae. Here we see the wax flakes being removed from the wax glands in the bee's abdomen. The bee removes the flakes with the spurs of her middle legs and, transferring the wax to her jaws, manipulates it into the remarkably uniform 6-sided wax cells. For the next 10 days or so, the worker is engaged in household activities. She cleans the hive. Here, a dead pupa is being removed. She may help to air condition the hive. Workers fan cool air in from the outside. Young workers also guard the entrance. But at last, the young worker emerges from the hive to forage for nectar and pollen. Here we see bees collecting pollen on their hairy legs and body. The worker's legs, seen in close-up, are a remarkable set of tools for collecting pollen. On the fore and middle legs are fringes of short, stiff hairs. The worker bee uses these to brush the pollen from various parts of its body. Pollen combs on the inside of the hind legs concentrate the pollen, and it is then packed into the so-called pollen baskets on the outside of the hind legs. When the baskets are loaded until they bulge, the bee returns to the hive and deposits the pollen into special cells. Packed down and combined with nectar and other substances, it becomes bee bread. The transfer of pollen from one blossom to another is called cross-pollination. The pollen grains carried by the honeybee are brushed off, and the sperm nucleus within the pollen tube unites with the egg nucleus of the other blossom. Many fruit growers keep hives of bees, not for the honey they produce, but to pollinate the flowers of the fruit trees. In each locality, there come a few periods each year when nectar is brought to the hives in large amounts. These periods are known as honey flows. The worker bee sucks the nectar from the flower with her long tongue. The worker alone has an elongated tongue for this function, just as she alone has specially adapted legs for collecting pollen. Back in the hive, the nectar is regurgitated and deposited in a cell where it will ripen into honey.
Thus we have seen the worker bee perform a truly astonishing variety of jobs. But we come now to what is perhaps the most astonishing fact about the honeybee. Behavior which seems, in the words of the German biologist Dr. Karl von Frisch, who first described it, too fantastic for belief. I'm speaking about the honeybee's remarkable system of communication, the so-called dance of the scout bee.
A scout bee discovers a rich source of food in the field. On returning to the hive, she performs an amazing dance. When the food is in the immediate vicinity of the hive, the scout bee performs the round dance. During this dance, the bees near the dancer follow her, keeping their antennae close to her body. She turns around, once to the right, once to the left, repeating these circles again and again. This is the simplest dance performed by the honeybee. It communicates nothing about direction. It seems to say, simply, fly out and search for food near the hive. However, if the scout bee finds a source of food farther away from the hive, the dance performed communicates much more. This has been called the wagging dance. The scout runs a short distance in a straight line while wagging the abdomen rapidly from side to side. Then she makes a complete turn to the right, turns to the left, and then repeats this pattern over and over again. This dance indicates not only that there is a rich source of food far away from the hive, it also tells how far away and the direction. If the dancer heads directly upward on the vertical comb, this apparently means the direction of the food is towards the sun. If the straight run is down the comb, the direction is away from the sun. If the food is to the right of the sun at any angle, the direction is indicated by a run on the vertical comb at the appropriate angle from the vertical. The distance of the food supply is communicated by the number of turns in the dance in a given time. For example, at 300 yards, there are 9 to 10 complete cycles of the dance within 15 seconds. At 600 yards, there are about 7 complete cycles in 15 seconds. And once the dance is completed, workers issue from the hive and make a beeline for the spot.
Thus some details about the dance of the honeybee, one of the most remarkable mysteries of their complex social organization. But there's something else which is perhaps equally remarkable. For years, various scientists had observed this dance without understanding its meaning. In fact, Van Frisch himself had observed it time and again, but had arrived at a wrong interpretation. Let me read you what he wrote when he at last discovered his error. It seems as though a happy dispensation from my scientific guiding star allowed me to discover this error myself. But let younger investigators be warned by this example, as they strive impatiently to publish their results after long years of frustration. Let them test their findings doubly and trebly before they regard any interpretation as certain. For often nature reaches her goal by another path, where man cannot see his way.
With the coming of summer, the beehive becomes overpopulated. Soon thousands of workers will form a new colony with the queen. Before leaving the hive, however, the workers ensure the survival of the old colony. They tear apart and enlarge ordinary brood cells, building special structures, queen cells. The queen lays fertile eggs in each cell. The queen larva is fed only royal jelly. It is literally immersed in it. With this diet, the queen larva matures quickly, in only 16 days. But before the new queen emerges, the old queen and most of the older workers prepare to leave the hive. They gorge themselves on honey. Then they pour out in a dense swarm. If left alone, scout bees go out to find a new home. But at this stage, the commercial beekeeper captures the swarm. Carried to an empty hive, the bees move in quickly and set up housekeeping. Meanwhile, in the old hive, a fascinating drama is taking place. A new queen is emerging from her cell. Her first task, to kill off her rivals, those still helpless in their cells, and those which happen to emerge at about the same time. These two queens will fight to the death. The workers do not interfere. If both queens are in danger of being stung, they separate. One queen must survive, and one does. Now, the drones are vital members of the colony. They have been fed and housed all summer long, and now will earn their keep. Within 8 days, the virgin queen flies from the hive. Mating takes place on the wing. The drone dies. The queen returns to the hive, and in 2 or 3 days lays her first egg, the first of perhaps 2 million. As autumn comes, the honey flow diminishes, and the bees prepare for winter. There occurs now another amazing social phenomenon of the honeybee, population control. After the fertilization of the queen, the drones have been useless. They are relentlessly driven out or killed. When winter comes, bees, unlike some insects, do not hibernate. They remain active within the hive, forming a winter cluster, the heat of their bodies generating warmth. The bees in the center work their way out. Those on the outer edges work their way in. Thus, the colony survives. During the long winter, the queen lays no eggs. But with the coming of spring, the complex social life of the colony will start once again.
Thus, we have seen some of the truly astonishing social activities of the honeybee. Many species of bees are not social, but there are other insects which have an even more elaborate social life than that of the honeybee. I have spent many years studying the social insects, particularly the termites. And I believe we can learn important lessons from a study of these insects if we carefully compare both the differences and the similarities of their social life with ours. Some social insects, for example, make war on other colonies of their own species, but this is not very common. Most of the warfare among social insects is between different species, not within the same species as we see it between tribes and nations of men. All social insects communicate. We've seen the remarkable system of communication of the honeybee. Human beings communicate information in various ways too, but there is a vast difference. The so-called language of the bee is instinctive and inherited and has evolved slowly through millions of years of evolution. The individual bee does not have to learn the dance, nor do bees have to learn to respond to the dance. They react instinctively. We humans employ a much more complex and useful language, or I should say languages, which we must learn. We learn the knowledge of past generations, including language, from our parents and by going to school. Insects, of course, have no schools. They also have no science and no artistic creations. They have no morals or awareness of the beauty and mysteries of their environment. But on the other hand, they cooperate with others of their kind more smoothly, but it is true, with far less versatility than man. Perhaps, by discovering the reasons for such differences and similarities between our social life and the social lives of the insects, we can learn to improve our own societies and our relation to the world in which we live.
Everybody has feelings, feelings every day. And it's all right to have feelings, feelings every which way. 'Cause feelings make us people, people who can say, I'm a very special person and I'm feeling this way today. For there are happy times and sad times, silly and hairy, scary times, mean and need to scream times. How do you feel right now? For there are lonely times and friendly times, gay and let's go play times, frown and feeling down times. How do you feel right now? For there are serious times and furious times, jealous and even envious times, glad I'm so mad times. How do you feel right now? Everybody has feelings, feelings every day. And it's all right to have feelings, feelings every which way. 'Cause feelings make us people, people who can say, I'm a very special person and I'm feeling this way today.
Jennifer, give it back. Give it back. Give it back, Jennifer.
You make me very angry. You're playing very mean. I want to throw the ball with you. It makes me want to scream. I feel like pushing and hurting the people that I see. I wish I knew how to make them as angry as they make me.
What do you do with anger you can't hide? What do you do on the outside? What do you do with anger you can't hide? What do you do on the outside?
Brian, stop it. You've got other things to do. Go play with Jennifer. Brian! Cut it out. Go away. Rat, leave me alone. Mommy!
You always run to Mommy. She only sides with you. It makes me feel so angry. I don't know what to do.
But what do you do with anger you can't hide? What do you do on the outside?
Look at me. No TV tonight. Is that clear?
What do you do with anger you can't hide? What do you do on the outside?
Hey, let's go over.
Okay. But I won.
Okay.
But I just got that much.
I think we better be racing.
Okay, you ready? You cheated!
You cheated in the running. That isn't being fair. You think that you're the winner. Boy, I don't even care.
But what do you do with anger you can't hide? What do you do on the outside?
Say, what do you know? That was a cinch.
Hey, don't wait. Changing a tag. I got it first. Second. I got it first. And I got it second. I
Just wait till I get bigger. You won't push me around. But right now I'm so mad at you, I'll knock this door right down.
What do you do with anger you can't hide? What do you do on the outside? What do you do with anger you can't hide? What do you do on the outside?
Hey, you're making a mess. You dripped water on my clay. Hey, that's my clay.
You smash what I was making. You don't watch what you do. You messed it up on purpose, and now I'm mad at you.
What do you do with anger you can't hide? What do you do on the outside?
Stacy, what happened?
Jeffrey took one of the tools to make designs on his clay, and he smushed my clay up.
How did you show Jeffrey the way that you feel?
I hit him and I looked at mad.
Well, what is another way that you could show how you felt?
Tell him.
That's right. That's really good thinking.
What do you do with anger you can't hide? What do you do on the outside?
Holy cow. Holy cow. Alright, sorry I ran so late, but I wanted to see that film. What do you think? Was there a toe tapper in there? There's basically two songs. There's the intro, then there is I think I like that first one with the girl and the ball. That's my favorite one. So let me know in the comments what you think, and we'll add it to the list if you liked it. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Yeah, it's Wednesday. I don't know what to tell you. If you like what you saw, hit like, thumbs up. You can donate by hitting the super thanks button or going to ko-fi.com/avgeeks or patreon.com/avgeeks. You can also just watch other things that we've been putting up on the AV Geeks YouTube site. Everybody have a good day. As always, please rewind. Love each other. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.